2015. Remember that one. Pacquiao is now planning to run for president in his native Philippines this upcoming May. But Shannon, how will you remember Manny as a boxer?
Historically great fighter.
Good for you.
The only fighter to win 8 world titles.
From 8 weight classes to knockout after knockout, Manny Pacquiao's rise wasn't just impressive, it felt almost unreal. But in the fight world, when someone defies logic, questions start flying. And recently on the Joe Rogan Experience, the gloves came off. PEDs, training secrets, and that infamous Juan Manuel Marquez knockout, Joe didn't hold back, especially when Pacquiao's name came up alongside Mario Barrios.
He's not as efficient, and he's going to get tired easier.
Step in, and I don't really agree with it because, I think there should be concerns. I know he's had exhibition bouts recently. He's been away for 4 years since being defeated by Ordenis Ugas, who bested him that night and surprised everyone. I don't know why he's coming back, other than maybe he wants more money to fund his welfare state stuff and his political ambitions. But I have to say it, and I don't like to say it, but I don't agree.
I've no problem with Manny Pacquiao wanting to fight. He's a fighter. But, 1, the people around him need to love and care for him and give him better advice. And 2, the people that are supposed to love and care for the sport and look after the sport need to do a better job. It's absolutely ridiculous that they're sanctioning a world title fight.
Yeah. Joe Rogan and his guest, Brendan Schaub, weren't just talking about fights. They were breaking down what makes combat sports so raw and controversial. And when PEDs came up, the conversation turned sharp. Canelo Alvarez and his clenbuterol scandal got a mention, but the real heat started when they brought up Manny Pacquiao.
Manny's a generational talented fighter. Like, he's accomplished what no other fighter is ever going to accomplish.
Yeah.
Again, but I don't feel like, he did it on his own. That's me personally, because for the simple fact, when Floyd made it a point for him to do the blood test, he didn't want to do the blood test. But then when he did do the blood test, he haven't got a knockout since.
Can I ask you a question? Where was Manny Pacquiao at in 96? He was a pro before me. What was he at in 97? What was he at in 98? What was he at in all these years? I'm saying.
So you are convinced?
I'm just saying. I'm just asking a question. That's all I'm doing is asking a question. Come on now, this is basic common sense now.
Joe didn't accuse Pacquiao directly, but he highlighted what many in the sport have whispered for years. Manny didn't just climb a few divisions, he jumped 8 weight classes. And here's the thing, he didn't lose power. In fact, he kept knocking guys out, even as he got bigger. That's where suspicion crept in. Most fighters, when they go up in size, sacrifice speed or punching power. But Manny just kept steamrolling. And then came the turning point, his fight with Juan Manuel Marquez. According to Rogan and Schaub, that's the fight where people thought Manny might have stepped off PEDs. He didn't look the same, he wasn't as explosive, and then boom, he got knocked out. That moment became a symbol for fans and analysts who believe performance enhancers may have played a role earlier in his career. But there's a twist. It wasn't just about Manny losing, there were layers. Around that same time, Pacquiao had a spiritual awakening. He turned away from his wild lifestyle, ditched the parties, the distractions, the chaos, and got closer to religion. Some believe that change affected his focus and intensity in the ring. It wasn't just PEDs, it was a mindset shift.
Back in the day, people thought that you might have been taking steroids or muscle enhancements. That's how you were able to bulk up and hit so hard, having came from such a lower weight class. Any of that true, to your knowledge?
I'm a very honest person, and I have feared the Lord, and I'm serving the Lord and obeying the Lord, and I don't want to. I cannot do such things and detestable in the Lord's sight.
Meanwhile, Juan Manuel Marquez, the man who delivered that thunderous KO, didn't escape suspicion either. Schaub pointed out that Marquez was working with Alex Ariza, a strength and conditioning coach who's long been associated with unconventional methods. When Manny gave up that camp, Ariza joined Marquez's corner, and right after, Marquez delivered the most devastating punch of his career. Coincidence? Or something more?
With Manny Pacquiao, 46, one of the greats of all time, against Mario Barrios, who's one of the modern, not greats, but he's getting good.
He's a young champion, man.
He's a young champion. I don't agree with it. I'm a little bit baffled. I'm sitting here actually talking about it because it feels a bit surreal to be talking about Manny Pacquiao coming back and fighting again in a serious contest against a young stud who's a world champion for the welterweight crown. And you think it's the guy...
Now fast forward to Manny's matchup with Mario Barrios, another reminder of how age, training, and maybe even legacy weigh into every punch. Barrios is no joke, and while he's not as decorated as Pacquiao, he represents a newer generation. The question on everyone's mind, can Manny still hang without the magic, without the questionable supplements, or that wild training camp? Whether you're a Pacquiao fan or a skeptic, it's hard not to wonder how much of his early success was talent, and how much might have been science. Joe Rogan's breakdown didn't give a definitive answer, but it sure opened the door for the debate to continue.
And PJ are on that night, he's not Manny Pacquiao. He's this old man, and as Deontay Wilder said about Luis Ortiz, you gotta beat his old ass. Yeah. And punch him in the face and remind him that this game has passed you by. But Pacquiao's Pacquiao. He could pull off anything. I just don't like George Foreman. At 45, he's at heavyweight where you can fight at an older age than you can in the lower weights. Right. And he's got one punch eraser. He's not an accumulation KO artist like Manny. Right. Bernard was the master of all masters.
Coming off Joe Rogan's skepticism, which many felt was grounded in genuine concern, it's clear he's not alone. In fact, respected boxing analysts Gareth A. Davies and Adam Catterall voiced even deeper reservations in a recent conversation, and they didn't hold back. Gareth kicked it off with a kind of disbelief wrapped in deep knowledge and personal experience. He's covered Manny Pacquiao's journey for years, literally followed him across continents. He knows the man, the legend, and the sacrifices, but even with all that admiration, Gareth couldn't justify what's unfolding now. He painted it plainly. Pacquiao, a national hero who's been retired for 4 years and is currently campaigning for a Senate seat, is somehow being handed a title shot against the WBC welterweight champion, Mario Barrios. No tune-up fights, no ranking, just straight in.
Manny Pacquiao is 46. He's been given the step in by Mauricio Suleiman and the WBC, who are businessmen as much as sanctioning bodies. And I think in this instance, being a Pacquiao file as well, having covered him, like I said, for over a decade, and been to his flat in Los Angeles and been to the Far East with him, covered all his major fights, got to know the man very well, all the big fights, and be around him and admire him and what he is, because he's known as the welfare state in the Philippines. There isn't one, but he's known as it. Hundreds of people queued at the Wildcard gym for just an autograph or a moment with him, same as General Santos City for donations. But he's being given the biggest donation here, this only ever in boxing 8-weight world champion. He's been given a...
Gareth didn't sugarcoat it. He called it what it is, a step-in from the WBC, driven by business, not merit. He compared it to George Foreman's comeback in the 90s, but highlighted the key difference. Foreman fought his way back. Manny, as legendary as he is, hasn't.
Step in, and I don't really agree with it because, I think there should be concerns. I know he's had exhibition bouts recently. He's been away for 4 years since being defeated by Ordenis Ugas, who bested him that night and surprised everyone. I don't know why he's coming back, other than maybe he wants more money to fund his welfare state stuff and his political ambitions. But I have to say it, and I don't like to say it, but I don't...
Some sense out of it.
Well, if you go back in time, 50 years, early 90s, George Foreman had to have something like 19 fights to
get the
after
shot.
10 years away to come back and get the shot. And the late great, let's call him George Foreman, of course, because he passed recently, age 76. He earned that spot back. He fought Evander Holyfield. He fought Michael Moore and won the title in the end to win the heavyweight championship back at the age of 45. Manny Pacquiao is 40.
And then Adam Catterall took the mic, and if Gareth was measured in tone, Adam was visibly frustrated. He wasn't questioning Pacquiao's desire to fight. He gets it. Fighters fight. But his issue was with everyone else. The handlers, the promoters, and most of all, the WBC. Adam accused them of acting out of pure greed, putting profit over principle, and spotlighting the unfairness to other welterweights who've been grinding for years. Paying sanctioning fees, earning their spot, now being leapfrogged because Pacquiao brings in money and headlines. Dam called it absolutely diabolical, and he wasn't exaggerating.
I look at the people that are around this fighter that are supposed to love and care for him, and are maybe not giving him the right advice in this particular moment, and maybe thinking about themselves rather than him and his health. And I absolutely look towards the sanctioning body of the WBC. I think it's a move of greed. I think it's disgraceful that they are allowing... Listen, I know that he's a man of profile, and that's the reason why they're making this decision. There are fighters in the world in the welterweight division that have been paying their sanctioning fees for the last 4 years in order to get themselves in position in the rankings, in hopefully maybe getting an eliminator and fulfill their dreams of becoming a world champion for whatever it is worth, collecting that belt in the modern era. To allow a fighter that has been absent for 4 years to leapfrog all those fighters just because of his profile and just because of the revenues he can create, and therefore you then benefit from your sanctioning fee of 3% every single time this man fights, I think he's absolutely...
Both men acknowledged that, yes, they'll end up watching the fight, that's part of the job, but neither felt good about it. Gareth admitted it felt surreal just talking about it. A 46-year-old Pacquiao stepping into the ring against a young, dangerous champion. There's that small hope he could pull off a miracle, sure, but the bigger concern was his health, and as Adam put it sharply, health goes out the window when people are making money. That moment right there summed up the heartbreak behind the skepticism. This isn't just about boxing politics or title shots. It's about watching a legend risk everything because the machine keeps turning. And just when you think it couldn't get more emotional, here comes Jim Lampley, arguably the voice of boxing for decades, sitting there, clearly heartbroken by the news. This isn't just another veteran fighter lacing up the gloves again. This is Manny Pacquiao, and for Lampley, a man who called almost all of Pacquiao's biggest nights, this one hits differently. You can feel it in his voice. Sad, he says, pausing for a second like he's trying to process it himself, and then he repeats it, just sad. Because for him, it's not about legacy anymore. It's about why Manny still feels the need to fight at 46, why the fire hasn't dimmed, even when most would say it should have gone out years ago.
There's reporting now, and I think it's going to be official soon, that Manny Pacquiao is going to come back, age 46, to fight against Mario Barrios. You called most, if not all, of Manny's most substantive fights over the years. What do you think of that?
Sad. You know, just sad that he feels any reason or urge whatsoever. However, on the other hand, fighters fight.
Lampley tries to empathize. He even draws a parallel to his own comeback after 6 years away from broadcasting. He admits it was risky, maybe even foolish, but at least he wasn't getting punched in the face. There's a raw honesty there, like he knows deep down this comeback could go sideways and badly, and yet he also gets it. Fighters fight, it's just in their blood.
There's reporting now, and I think it's going to be official soon, that Manny Pacquiao is going to come back, age 46, to fight against Mario Barrios. You called most, if not all, of Manny's most substantive fights over the years. What do you think of that?
So I understand why Manny wants to come back and do something he loves and get paid for it. But it's one thing to talk into a microphone when you've been a few years away and you're a little bit older. It's entirely a different thing to go in and hit and get hit. And he made ungodly, indescribable sums of money. So I wish it were enough. But I'm not surprised that it isn't. You can't be surprised that it's in.
But that doesn't make it any easier for these experts who've watched Manny rise, fall, and rise again. To them, this isn't exciting, it's devastating. Watching a legend possibly risk it all again, not for glory, but maybe just for that old familiar feeling. On the Sean Porter podcast, the whole crew is clearly torn. They know Pacquiao's a legend, no doubt about it, but the moment his name pops up with a fight announcement, especially against someone like Mario Barrios, you can feel the concern kick in. They start bouncing around theories. Maybe it's just the love for fighting. Some fighters can't walk away. It's not even about the belts or the fame anymore. It's about that itch that never goes away. Then the conversation shifts to Manny's role outside the ring. He's not just a fighter, he's practically a national hero. He gives so much of his earnings back to the Philippines. And when you've built that kind of responsibility into your identity, the pressure to keep going doesn't fade, even when your body tells you it should. It's not just about personal glory anymore. He's carrying something much bigger.
Fight. Because if you can't deal with this counter punching and Floyd's bigger and younger and faster, and then I know what's gonna happen now. But my first reaction to this fight was it reminds me of Ray Leonard coming back against Hector Camacho for that last comeback Ray had, where it's just like Ray can't beat anybody anymore. He's old. He's done. You know, it doesn't matter who if you put him in there with a live. Camacho was shot too, but he had more left than Ray Leonard did. So it kind of reminds me of that. And then also, you know, with Turkey and Riyadh season trying to take over the game, this kind of and PBC, they, you know, Top Rank doesn't even put on pay-per-views anymore. So
they talk size next, and it gets real. Barrios is a big welterweight. He comes into the ring strong, tall, and heavy. Meanwhile, Pacquiao's pushing 5 feet 6 inches on a good day. The difference in physicality is huge, and everyone knows it. It's not like Manny hasn't faced bigger guys before, but doing it at 46 after years out of the game is a whole different situation. Someone mentioned seeing footage of one of Manny's more recent fights, and the energy just wasn't there. He looked slower, more cautious, like someone who knows he's got miles on him. That's when the real concern sets in. It's not just about whether he'll win, but whether he'll be okay. So Manny's stepping in there again, whether it's the love for the game, the pressure to give back, or just the lure of one last payday under the lights. And the experts, fans, and former fighters are all holding their breath, because no matter how much heart he's got, the clock never stops ticking. Let us know in the comments below what you think about Pacquiao's return. Is this a final chapter worth writing, or a page that should have stayed closed?